Alright, how's everyone doing? You guys hear me okay? Good. You guys saw the safety video, yeah? Okay, cool. There's passenger briefing cards too in the pockets around the aircraft. You guys can look at those if you want. Most importantly, that's where the Aloha bags are located, just in case you know where those are. I will be with air traffic control for a little bit. They don't let us talk to you guys in controlled airspace anymore. But that'll just be like 5 or 6 minutes, and we'll be out there on our own where we like to be. Alright, back with you. How's everyone doing so far? Good. We got good weather for a flat out to Molokai. All the valleys are open. We can go wherever we want. So we'll check out the Waihe'e Valley first, which is off our left. It's the wettest valley on the island. It gets 300 inches of annual rainfall in the back of the valley. Mostly because of its shape. It's pointing to where this wind is coming from, so the wind blows moisture into the valley and it gets trapped by these 3,000 foot canyon walls back here. So it'll rain for like weeks at a time in the back of this valley. All that annual rainfall has to go somewhere too, so it'll seep underground into these underground aquifers. There's all these underground lakes that form, they leak and create springs. So if you look closely at some of the waterfalls in this valley, you'll see the water just flow like right off the side of the cliffs. Down in the bottom of this valley, see how it's just a riverbed basically? That's why you can't really hike into very many of these valleys and hike to these waterfalls, because when you get heavier rain showers like we have upslope of us right now, the bottom of that valley turns into a giant river or wash out any trail or road you could build. Really hike into the bottom of these valleys, but there is a hiking trail out in front of us that you can take if you're into hiking. It's called the Waihe'e Ridge Trail. It's a 1,000-foot climb in about 2 miles. But you get good views of the coastline on the way up. The very end of the trail sits on top of the cinder cone at our 12 o'clock. You'll see a little deck up there and a few people up there. And then you'll notice there's no more forest over here on these plateaus, and that's because of the wind. The wind will accelerate through these mountain passes, like over time, literally knock over any tree over 5 feet tall. So it's all wind blowing up here, so there's no more trees in this area. below us, this is the Kahakaloa Valley. You'll see Kahakaloa Rock over here about our 2 o'clock position. That's a famous landmark to the Hawaiians because of King Kahakili. King Kahakili was this famous king in the mid-1700s who would supposedly jump off of that rock into the water to try to prove his immortality. And this king was trying to prove he was invincible because he wanted to conquer other islands, take over more territories, because kings in Hawaii, if there's a war or a battle, they'd have to fight too. They'd have to lead the charge. So he'd jump off the rock into the water to prove his immortality, and they'd believe him that he was invincible and follow him into battle. And the highway, you see that road goes right by the rock. That's why they call it the Kahakili Highway. It's more of a coastal highway than the Hana Highway that you'll hear about. So you can hike down to tide pools and along sea cliffs. All these flat plateaus in front of us here are old pineapple plantations. They used to grow pineapples all over this part of the island. The agriculture is pretty much on the decline now. Those have been given up on. But we're going to leave Maui now, cross the Pailolo Channel, head out to Molokai. We got about 10 miles of water between the two islands, so it'll take us less than 5 minutes to get across that channel. In Maui, we get 150,000 residents, and there's more visitors than residents year-round. And it's no accident. They just have a lot of restrictions on the development of the land. They're trying to keep the island more locally owned. On Maui and Oahu and these other islands, everything's owned by off-island companies, so most of the revenue that comes into the islands goes somewhere else. But Molokai, they're keeping it local. They have a community vote on any new development, so they just vote no on everything. And that's why it hasn't grown that much. But it's really cool. There's like 2 small hotels and bed and breakfasts that'll be like right on the coast. And they'll leave a car at the airport with the keys in it and the doors unlocked. So it's like going back in time. 40 years ago, they had 7,000 residents on Molokai. Still only 7,000 residents on the island. Like old Hawaii. In front of us, you can see Turtle Rock. This rock island in front of us is a famous scuba diving site for hammerhead sharks. People take boats across this. In front of us, this whole corner of the island that you see is all one big cattle ranch. Murphy's Ranch takes up the corner of Molokai. It's like a dude ranch. You can go out here and ride horses, chase cows around. Back on Maui, there's areas too where they can take you on trail rides. But out here, they do the whole dude ranch thing. Been cowboys on every island since the 1800s in Hawaii. The Paniolo, the Hawaiian cowboy, a big part of the local culture. They have rodeos on every island. And that's the coastal highway of Molokai that we're just crossing over. This road will dead end in the Halava Valley, which is just around the corner. You can't drive around Molokai. Got the world's tallest sea cliffs on the north shore, so it's like impassable by car. In front of us, we got the world's tallest sea cliffs on the north shore of Molokai. The geologists say it's because of an earthquake. They think a massive earthquake hit this island a long time ago, and it was so powerful that it dropped a third of the island off into the ocean. So hopefully that doesn't happen again, but whatever caused it, we got big cliffs. This will be a 2,000-foot drop-off here below us. In front of us, this is Papala'ua Falls. This is a 1,400-foot waterfall. That waterfall is the size of the Empire State Building, so we're going to do a turn here by the shoreline so you guys can get a picture of the whole waterfall in one shot, and we'll come in for like a close-up in just a minute. far left, that's the Wailau Valley. There's several people that live in that valley. No electricity. No roads even. The only way in and out of that valley is by boat or helicopter, and they don't have either one. Front of us, just past those little rock islands, you can see the Kalapapa Peninsula. You'll see how the land stretches out into the ocean a ways. And that's where the old leprosy colony was in the past. Leprosy used to be criminalized in Hawaii. If you had leprosy on any of the islands, you'd be taken from your family, legally pronounced dead, and quarantined on that peninsula. It was like a jail. And there is no harbor or anything. They'd park the boats right next to that last little rock island and kick them off. They'd have to swim to shore with leprosy. But eventually they found a cure for that, and now that peninsula is a historic national park and a rainforest preserve that goes up into the mountains. So it's come a long way. And off my left side, this is where the sea cliffs are their tallest point, 3,000 foot tall cliffs, tallest cliffs on the planet. Into the Pelekunu Valley next. This has some of the most pristine native forests left in Hawaii. It's got a nice river down the bottom of the valley too. And if you're not really into trees and plants, they all kind of look the same. But on Maui, almost everything you see has been introduced. Back here, you have a better example of what the forests look like hundreds of years ago. side of this ridgeline is like the old crater of the Kamakau volcano. So this is what Haleakala's crater will look like someday. Millions of years of no eruptions. The rain will wash out all the lava rock and replace it with rainforest. Native forest is mostly made up of ohia lehua trees. Those are the trees you see along the cliffs. Like a native tree of Hawaii. The trees down in the bottom of the valley that look kind of like cauliflower, that's actually our state tree though. That's the kukui nut tree. That's where they get the nuts for the leis and the bracelets. And then there's like 7 different varieties of Hawaiian ferns. Some will grow like trees, be like 20 feet tall. So it makes up the native forest of Hawaii. As you come over this next ridgeline, you'll see the largest coral reef in all of Hawaii. In some areas of Molokai, you can walk a mile offshore and only be 1 to 2 feet deep out at the edge of the reef in some areas. Down along that coastline too, you'll see all these Hawaiian fish ponds. Hawaiians, they would stack rock out on that reef and create these ponds. Different islands had different techniques. Molokai, most of their fish ponds are made in a way that there would be small holes in the rock wall, so the smaller fish could squeeze through these gaps in the rock wall and form a school, and they get too big and they want to be able to get back out. Like a fish trap. Some fish ponds on some of the other islands, they build these big wooden gates and just raise it at a high tide, close it at a low tide. Some are stocked full of the best fish for the royal families, royal fish ponds they call those. But none of the islands did it quite like Molokai. There are 73 in total along the shoreline. Ancient form of aquaculture. Past these last couple houses, we'll dip down at the edge of the reef and take a closer look at the coral reef. As we fly over the coral reef, take a good look at it, see if you can see anything swimming around. Sometimes we'll see like sea turtles or manta rays. Every once in a while we even see sharks. So just kind of keep your eyes peeled for anything moving down there. turn here, take one last look at Molokai, and then we'll go across the Pailolo Channel again, and we'll fly on the leeward side of Maui on the way back. What's your question? That's Maui. Yeah. So to make our turn here, you can see Lanai off of our right side now. Maui's in front of us, and then that's Kaho'olawe way out there about our 1 o'clock. Between these islands, this water is relatively shallow, so geologists say that's a sign this is a sunken island. They think Maui was like the size of the Big Island a long time ago. That's about how big it would be if it was still connected. But over time, the island sunk, water filled up the lower lying area, and this is what we got now. But it's all who you ask. Hawaiians, they have a creation myth about this, and they say the opposite. They say instead that none of these islands are here to start. And then this kid was fishing with a magic fishing line, caught the island of Maui, and was pulling it up when the line broke and left the island partially submerged. So geologists say Maui sunk, Hawaiians say it never came out all the way. So either way, it's up to you. Off our right side, you can see they're pretty dry. They're not very green. Lanai only gets enough rain to support a very small population. There's somewhere between 2,000 and 3,000 people on Lanai most of the time. And you can go visit the island. It is mostly privately owned. Larry Ellison owns like 95% of it. But you can still go out and visit the island. There's a ferry that goes out of Lahaina. It's about $60 round trip. There's hotels you could stay at. Most people on Maui, if they visit Lanai, they go out there to go like off-roading or ride ATVs. There's people that will rent those out for you. There's big white sandy beaches you can park on that you'll have to yourself if you go out there. Just want to go when the wind's not too strong. It can be a windy island. Kaho'olawe out there in the distance, you cannot go to that one. That one was used by the military for a long time. They blew stuff up out there for a long time. Now you can't even get within 2 miles of Kaho'olawe. And then if you look down below us at this water, you'll see the difference between the Pailolo Channel, which is known for rough water. It's like a wind tunnel effect between Maui and Molokai. That's why you got all the white caps and the rough seas. In front of us, it's like magic. You have calm, glassy water. That's the Ao channel. Ao means bathwater, and we call them like bathwater. So you'll start to see more traffic out here on the water, more tour boats and fishing boats and parasailers and jet skis. But in the past, it was trade ships and whaling ships that would come out here to Lahaina. Lahaina, the town in front of us, was the first capital city of all of Hawaii. That's where all the trade ships would come. And then off our left, that's Ka'anapali there off our left. You can see this coastline looks a little different than Molokai. Lots of hotels and resorts on these sandy beaches. But it used to all be agriculture. That was all sugarcane way up into the mountains, and it was pineapples. Behind the golf course, they're growing coffee, so there's still a little bit of agriculture, but for the most part, agriculture on the decline throughout Hawaii. So Lahaina over here off our right side has a lot of history in this town. Back in the 1800s, back when this was a real busy port city, it was kind of a wild place. Trade ships and whaling ships in the 1800s weren't really known for having like the classiest of people on board. There was all kinds of disease and crazy stuff going on in town. That was during the introduction to foreign disease and the rats, mice, and mosquitoes that spread the disease as well. So there's no place for kids, so they built these schools up here on the Mauka side of town. Missionaries did in 1831, making the high school actually the oldest high school west of the Rocky Mountains. But they were like public boarding schools. They gave the kids a place to live and get medical attention, and then the kids would maintain the campus in return. And it's never changed since 1831. It's the only public boarding school left in Hawaii. The kids that live there work like 20 hours a week to maintain the school. They work on the school, and they also work on the farm down in the valley on our side of the campus. And that's why the L is up on the mountain. That's L for Lahaina. The seniors go up there and chalk out the L with lime, put the class number on the bottom. It's like a senior tradition in Lahaina. We're going to head into the West Maui Mountains now. And these valleys over here are pretty cool. They're like half desert, half rainforest. They only get 10 inches of rainfall in the front of these valleys. In the back of these valleys, they get over 100 inches of rainfall. Right above us is about where the rain clouds will break up. It's about every day. Half desert, half rainforest. We'll go into the Laniapoko Valley first, which is just past the next ridge line. That'll lead us into the center of the West Maui Mountains. This is the Olovalo Valley down below us. Ukumehame Valley is the next one just past this next ridgeline. And these beaches that are down there by the coastline that sit in front of these valleys, they're named after the valley they sit in front of, so these names sound familiar. They're from the beaches down along Highway 30. Ukumehame is a cool valley. Half of it looks like the Grand Canyon, half of it looks like a Hawaiian Valley more. Hame Beach off our left side. Papala'ua Beach is over here off of our right side. Locals call it Grandma's because it's kind of the easiest surf spot. But these are nice sandy beaches you can come out and check out, and you can park right on the beach pretty much. Right when you come around the pali. Pali means hillside or ridgeline in Hawaiian, so technically there's lots of palis in Maui, but on the island, when someone says they're going around the pali, they're kind of referring to this part of the island. You can hike up the pali. There's the Lahaina Pali Trail. It goes up to these windmills. It's a 1,600-foot climb in about 3 miles, so a really good workout. So you can hike up to the windmills. You get good views of the sunset towards the end of the day if you just want to go up a little ways, get above the coastline. On the other side of those windmills is a controlled airspace. I'll have to be back with air traffic control now until we land. Before we do land, I do want to thank you guys for coming out and flying with me, though. I don't get to go flying without you guys. They don't let me out by myself, so thanks for getting in here so I can go fly around. And then once we do land, just sit tight, wait for either Spencer or Kat. They'll come out and help you out of the aircraft. They'll set you up inside, too, if you want the video of the flight. But I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thanks a lot for flying with me.